On Wednesday, Tucker Carlson aired an astonishing interview featuring Devon Archer, which we will show you in a minute. If you're not familiar with his name, this is Archer himself. As a former business associate of Hunter Biden, and he spoke to the House Oversight Committee on Monday under oath, and he offered details on his decade-long relationship with Hunter Biden and the times when he and President Biden crossed paths. So what exactly does that mean? Including a series of phone calls between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So during his testimony, Archer admitted that they had capitalized on the Biden name for their business ventures.
Now, this interview was behind closed doors to Congress, and so we had to take congressional summaries and take their word for it. So the reason this is so explosive is because we get to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Is that the right, or the cow's mouth?
Yeah,
the horse's mouth. We hear it from the horse's mouth because he now is speaking for himself. Why? It's interesting. Like, why was that hearing closed door? Why couldn't we see that? We saw the IRS whistleblower testimony. Why not this one, right?
Yeah.
So now we get to see for ourselves.
So during his testimony, Archer admitted that they had capitalized on the Biden name for their business ventures. And to kick off this interview, Tucker asked whether Archer believed Hunter would have achieved the same level of success in his business ventures had he not been the vice president's son. It's a great question. At first,
so you worked with Hunter Biden in a bunch of different businesses. What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington, graduated Yale Law School, and had a very big network in D.C. and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
The know-how. So as far as I could tell, he wasn't doing legal work.
Correct.
He wasn't in the counsel's office at Burisma, right?
No.
So the network and the Biden brand sounds like the kind of key component of
absolutely
what he was bringing.
Yep.
Do you think that he would have been in those businesses, not having a business background, without his father being in a government position?
It's hard to speculate in those regards. I mean, I think when we initially met and he talked about his advisory business, his business that needed to transition from lobbying to advisory and the interest in private equity, it seemed like a new and interesting network for us to expand our business. Whether he could have, been in that position, it's hard for me to speculate. But obviously, the brand of Biden, adds a lot of power when your dad's the vice president.
So he did.
Now, interesting what he says here, that he couldn't be a lobbyist anymore, right? Because obviously the vice president cannot be a lobbyist, cannot be involved in that kind of business at the time, right? And so the idea, like, my dad's vice president, but I can't sell it as a lobbyist because that's too forward.
It's too on the nose.
That's too on the nose, right? So if we just change the name of the business into private equity, that's a whole other ball of wax.
Right, yeah. And, first Archer sort of danced around that question, sort of hemming and hawing, that Hunter's law school background would have been a good enough reason for people to get on the phone with him and had done business. And he just basically concedes the point, right? He's like, no, he was definitely selling and currying favor by using his dad's name. Now, Tucker pressed him on what exactly Hunter Biden's skills are and what his business actually was doing. Right? You mentioned private equity. Like, what the hell is this company actually doing? Is it a business? Would you produce anything? Or are you leeches? What are you guys actually doing? At the end of the day, he was just selling access to his dad. That's really all the business was. So, I mean, that's what this business model was. Like, can you imagine the business plan? Like, what's your business plan? Just sell access. Just sell access. That's it, to my dad.
I'm a connector.
I'm a connector.
I'm a wealth
and I make
mover.
money off of it. So here's what he says about what access means. Watch.
He knew a lot of people. And obviously, I know you're pointing to, the father being the key relationship.
Well, no, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, Washington's not a money town.
Right.
People aren't in business in Washington for the most part, and most people don't have business skills that I've noticed in 30 years of living there. So really, the business of Washington is selling access. That's what it looked like to me.
Yes.
Not just Hunter Biden, but
I think that's one of the core misconceptions. I mean, it seems like when understanding a regulatory environment means selling access at the end of the day. That's how I interpret it, and I think that's how most people in Wall Street, whether they admit it or not, interpret it.
Yeah, of course. That's exactly it. Hey, Ken in our chat says, Carl Stenbeck says, stop censoring the chat or we will leave. Hey, Carl, we don't do that. You're free to leave. We don't, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. But Rumble does not censor the chat, so you're more than welcome to go over to Rumble. YouTube, though, does censor the chat. So they will, if you say something or you put links in there and other stuff like that, they will censor that stuff. So just gotta be careful. Like if you're swearing or saying anything like that's off color or whatever, they automatically do that shit. So anyway, I wanted to.
And sometimes we can see it says held for review, but it goes too fast, so we miss it. But it's definitely not us.
Yeah, just so FYI, Carl. Anyway, so the big question.
Go
ahead.
I just want to say really quick, like if I were a businessman and they're like, hey, the vice president's part of this, like at this point, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not interested. It's like, does that mean anything anymore? I think there's a certain business world that it would, because that's access, I think, more than anything.
Let's play out what it meant for specifically Burisma was licensing in private oil and gas in Ukraine in order to disrupt, Russian monopoly of oil and gas in that region. And so absolutely, you want somebody who will be supportive of your business model when it comes to disrupting an entire country or continent's oil and gas industry. Then you need lawmakers. You need influential people. It's not just like a, hey, in the way that those, what was the cryptocurrency that Gisele Bündchen was connected to through Tom Brady in the commercial? It's not like that. It's not a name dropper. FTX, it's an actual, that was FTX. I totally forgot. Yeah. This is not a name dropping situation. This is actual policy that you can get that will make people money.
So the big question, of course, is whether or not Joe Biden was aware of which businesses or government officials were on the speakerphone at the time, or whether or not he knew that these people were on the speakerphone at the time and there was business people in the room with Hunter during these 20 or so phone calls, right? That's the big question. Did Joe know he was helping to grease the palms of his son, making these business meetings happen, business deals happen? Hey, the big guy is on the phone. See how I can get you access like this? Like the vice president's right here on the phone. Watch.
So how many, it's been reported and you have said that there were occasions when Joe Biden would call in with clients present on a speakerphone.
Right.
How many times do you think that happened?
I mean, over a 10-year partnership, I would, the number I'm going with is 20. That's probably the amount that I kind of recall. Yeah, a lot, you could say.
So Joe Biden, who's very much a product of Washington, of course, must have known that he was calling in to effectively a business meeting that his son was having. I mean, he must have understood that was kind of what his son was selling.
Well, it's hard for me to speculate on that.
But I guess my question, just to keep it to the facts, Joe Biden, then the sitting vice president, knew that there were Hunter's business associates in the room.
Yeah, I think I can definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too. So I think, or if, any of the other colleagues from the DC office or the New York office were there. So yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff for anyone.
It's been reported, and I know that it is true, that Hunter and his brother were very close to their dad.
Absolutely.
Which I think is great.
Yep.
I've got a lot of kids. I'm very close to them, talk to them every day.
Yeah.
Never called them on speaker during a business meeting. That's weird. You've got a lot of kids. You're close to them. Do you call them on speaker during business meetings?
Do I call?
I mean, what is that? A grown man calling his dad on a speakerphone during a business meeting?
Right. And to be clear, sometimes it was the call was coming in and the speaker would go on. So it's just the president. You have to be. I mean, you understand DC, right? So the power to have that access and that conversation, and it's not in a scheduled conference call, and it's a part of your family. That's like the pinnacle of power in DC.
100%. I guess I'm pivoting against the lie that I'm hearing people tell with a straight face. Congressman Goldman, for example, that we don't really know what was going on. Really? You're taking a call from the vice president and you put it on speaker. It's not just, hey, Dad, I'm in a meeting with some buddies.
Right.
It's, let me put my dad, the vice president, on speaker.
Yeah. Yep. In the rear view, it's an abuse of soft power, I'd say.
Yeah. That's putting it lightly, huh?
Yeah.
Archer also admitted that he got a little too close to the sun. He said, I flew a little too close to the sun and I got burned by all of this, by the Biden family. And that may be him doing some damage control now. I see a bunch of people in the chat saying, this guy needs to go to jail as well. Let us know your thoughts on that. He basically said anyone who is sort of sitting there saying that it was disingenuous to act as if they had no idea why Hunter Biden would have been on the energy giant, Ukrainian energy giant Burisma's payroll. I don't know. I mean, I guess they just hired him for his law skills. I have no idea why he would have been on the board of Burisma. Really? He's saying it's totally disingenuous. You know exactly why he was on the board from 2014 to 2019. It was to curry favor and access for his dad and the vice president.
And think of how easily these kind of things can be bought and sold, where you can be on speakerphone with someone of access and say, hey, I'm going to have so-and-so call you about this thing I want. Yeah, absolutely, because you're a friend of my son's. Okay, I'll take the call, right? That's access that normal people can't get. And so then you can come in and say, I want this thing. I'm a friend of your son. You can get it. This is, and so I've seen all of these pundits online now and on CNN saying, this is just Joe Biden being supportive of his son. Like, okay, like my dad watching one of my broadcasts or something like that. That's not really the same. It's not like a loving fatherly thing. And he should know to be careful with who gets access to him because he's a career politician.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And most of the time, like if I'm doing something for work and my dad calls, I send it to voicemail. Yeah. And I call him back later.
Yeah. Who's doing that? Oh, let me just put you on speaker in front of these business partners. Hey, Vice President Dad, you're on speaker.
Right.
Hold on. It's my vice president father. Just give me a second, guys. I know you wanted to talk some business and how much money you were going to pay me, but just let me put you on. Dad, are you there? Hey, I'm in the middle of a business meeting right now, but you want to talk about that other thing from that other company a little bit later?
And remember how much these same people who are normalizing this freaked out about, Trump having state dinners at his golf clubs and, charging for the golf carts in the rooms and making money off of. Now he flew to the Middle East and Israel all of the time. Like, you have to have equal justice under the law. You can't say one was bad and one was good. Either they're both bad or they're both good. Yeah. Or they're both fine. But they're selling access to our own politics for decisions that may or may not be good for all of us.
Yeah, indeed. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. We've got more news to get to here in a moment. We're going to be joined with a report from Patrick Lancaster in Donetsk, which has been under constant and heavy shelling over the past 24 hours. We'll bring you that report, which is really the center of the war right now and what's happening there. We'll take you to the front lines, MSNBC, CNN. Nobody's covering that. We will. Our little dinky show here at Redacted. This independent news organization. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.